Ladies and gentlemen, this is Pressing Matters brought to you by On the Mic. You know the drill. Subscribe, like, follow, everything that you need to do to make sure that we keep producing that football content. We have a very, very special guest today. Last time we had the men's Pakistan national team coach. Today we have the women's national football team coach. Adil Rizki, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
How has everything been with the women's team? I know it's been a crazy, it's been like 7-8 years of no competitive activity. And then it's been like a flurry of, which we like, a good flurry of competition and preparation and everything. How has that been for you?
It's been a roller coaster, to be honest. We've everything came very thick and fast for us, which is good again. But again, there's always, when things come quick, you need to be on your toes and make sure you're ready to do things. And I think we did prepare really well for our stuff. And inshallah, I think we'll continue to do so. There's a lot of events coming through for the men's and the women's teams. So inshallah, the idea is to keep working and try to get the best out of it.
And I'm just curious because you mentioned that you had to be on your toes, and I'm pretty sure that it was pretty, you had to be pretty quick to change your mentality and your, get in that zone. Okay, now we're doing this. This is the new era. This is what I have to do. This is my job to get the women's team back on track. I'm just curious, what has been the toughest day on the job for you so far?
To be honest, I think the toughest day for me hasn't been as yet so far, because I think I love the sport. I love what I do, and that's why I'm in it. And I think for me, I just like coaching all the time. People talk about taking different roles in different clubs and stuff, but coaching is what I love doing. And I think I enjoy every bit of it. And I can think about it 24/7, just try to push, and come up with new ideas, come up with new solutions to our problems, and try to go forward. That's it. So, abhi tak, touch wood, that hasn't been a tough day for me.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, because I asked Maria this as well. मैंने Maria से भी पूछा था कि because इतनी देर से football activity नहीं हुई थी for the women's team, and then the first thing that we got back after the ban ended and everything happened was the SAF Women's Championship, and then after that we had this as well. Obviously, Nepal wala beech mein match hua tha, but in terms of competitive matches, it's been the women's team that's been the main focus. How are you looking at this new squad that you have? How are you looking at this new challenge that we have to put the women's team not back on track, because unfortunately we haven't ever been on track properly, but to set the track, if that's
Yeah.
the right
So
word.
first, let's start with what happened. I think we didn't have anything going on in Pakistan for the last, I think, 8 years. Again, we did have some national championships. That was about maybe a month. So clubs jo the wo zyada khelte nahi the. They weren't producing talent. So it was very limited. Everything was very limited. So we had to really dig deep to kind of find people to be able to build a team to begin with. And then once we had that team in place, we had to realize that we're starting from scratch, completely from zero. And it's not the players' fault at all. Like it's the system, and it's the coaches, and it's everything else, that the culture that we have here. It didn't suit what we were supposed to do or where we should be for a national team level. Again, remember, we're not talking about a club level team. We're talking about a national team. So we should know exactly which player is doing what, data wise, performance wise, and we should just be handpicking them up. But we didn't have that tool. So it was very difficult to kind of find the right people, the right mixes. We had some restrictions that we needed to follow. So un sabko dekhte hue, we made the first team based on a lot of there were some older players in it. It was a mixed bag. We had to make some hard decisions after that to put the things right on track, to make sure we come up with a younger team. We want to have a young squad in place so that this doesn't happen again. We want to have players who understand football, who make football their lifestyle. It's not about just coming up and playing. It's not about recreational football that, just because I can kick a ball or I can run, I should be in the Pakistan national team. That's not why we're supposed to be in the national team. You need to be the best player in Pakistan to be playing in the national team. For that, you need to be able to train, and you need to have talent. But with talent, you need to have intelligence as well. So that's something that I really look at, the intelligence side, game awareness, all of that. You know that better than me. So that's what I look for, and that's how we build squads.
That's very interesting because I wanted to talk about this. For me, I think of it like a new era, where you have because obviously everything that had gone past, there are a lot of players whose career had sort of wasted away, because we weren't really doing anything with the national team, and obviously they hadn't retired yet. They were still there, but they weren't going to be like, you couldn't say that, acha, 7 years down the road they're going to still be there, because their careers were they were in the twilight of their careers. So I was just thinking, what was going through your mind when you saw this challenge ahead of you, and you saw the SAF Women's Championship, and then you saw, obviously that was the first hurdle, because your SAF Women's Championship squad was a bit different, and then your second tournament squad was a bit different. And I'm specifically talking about the old guard like Hajra Khan, Khatija Kazmi. These were missing. So you probably went for a bit more experience in the SAF Women's Championship, and then you were like, okay, now this is, I've done what I can now. So what was going through your mind to make those certain changes?
So first, I think सबसे पहले what we did was, so again, let me just start off by saying that this is not any player's fault at all.
Yeah, of course.
The fact that there was such a big gap, it's unfair on the players, and and we had to make some hard decisions, like I said. But वो चीजें होती हैं, पूरी दुनिया में ऐसी चीजें होती हैं. But the first thing we had was SAF Championship. The draw came out first, and we saw that we had two of the toughest opponents.
Yeah.
So we had to go in with, and again, given the lack of time that we had, we tried to build a squad based on what we thought at that time was the best. So we selected people based right off the bat on how they play at that time, currently playing. So that's what we did at that time, because we only had 5 weeks to prepare for the SAF Championship. Learnings from SAF Championship was the biggest thing that we did. So we had a lot of learnings from the SAF Championship. And very quickly we realized that whatever competition we want to play in the future, we need to start preparing people for the future. We can't think about today, because we have to think about football development, even though we shouldn't, but we have to. So thinking of that, we came back, we changed our strategy to saying, you know what, we'll keep a few experienced players, but massively we'll keep a young squad who we can prepare, who we can even teach the basics if we have to, versus me teaching basics to a 29-year-old. I would rather teach it to the 15-year-old than who can actually take it further and last longer. It doesn't matter who the coach is. So the football brain needs to be developed in a proper way. So usko hum log, that's what the idea was, and that's how we wanted to go, push forward.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because I had obviously Shahzad Anwar on the podcast, and he was also talking about the fact that although his short-term goal is obviously winning the FIFA qualifier, which is this year, but the long-term aim is to have a talent pipeline, or enough developed players that by the time you get to 2026 or 2027, you have that sort of batch peaking at the right time, and you have that players who have played together and have that footballing brain that you're talking about. So do you have that long term? So what are you looking? So if someone's wondering, okay, long term, maybe what's exactly the concept at play, and what are you aiming towards? What is that?
So right now, to be like right off the bat, what we're looking at right now is Olympic qualifiers, which is happening in April. Again, I know it's too close. We don't have time to prepare for it that much. We've been trying. The Saudi Championship in the middle was a preparation tool for this. But again, we will have events like this. I think this was the biggest one. That's why we started with the women's program so strongly, was because we wanted to compete at this level. Hence the diaspora players, hence all of those things came through as well. But going forward, we want to play at every FIFA window that we get. We want to play. We want to play in every SAF Championship. Anything that, if there's World Cup qualifiers that we can be part of, we want to be part of that. Anything that we want to get these girls out there, give them exposure, give them a chance to showcase what they have, and that's the main idea. But for right now, for this year, हमारा सबसे बड़ा aim is to try to compete in the Olympic qualifiers that's happening in April.
Yeah, and just for people who might not know this, I think this is the first time
ever
that we're doing this as a country, which is sort of ridiculous, I guess. Pretty ridiculous. I don't know what to say to that. But you mentioned, it was very interesting. You mentioned that the SAF Women's Championship was like a learning experience. It was the thing that drove you towards the performance, or the sort of key sort of things that you implemented in the Saudi tournament. What specifically were some of the learnings that you could maybe share with the audience?
So again, for me, सबसे पहले मेरे लिए जो होता है वो सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट है कि football player needs to have a brain to play. Talent can get you so far, but the game intelligence is what's going to drive you to, the next part of
It's all about decision making.
Decision making. It's about, the lifestyle I've talked about. So we needed players who understand that and will accept it at an early age versus some people who's going to accept it at a later age. That was one of the biggest things. So we went in for, again, strategy change, saying, you know what, listen, we're going to go with young players so that we can actually help them develop for the future. I think that was the biggest learning for us, because we had major injuries, because we had players who were a lot senior than us, senior than the younger ones. Average age was about 25, if I'm not mistaken. So an aging team, but again, at that time it was sufficient, because putting younger players in the deep end like that would not also be right. So we had to manage all of that stuff.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And I also noticed, correct me if I'm wrong, a stark change in the way the team was set up in the SAF Championship and also in the Saudi. Because I'm guessing it's also because of the quality of the opposition. Naturally, you had match with India and then you had Bangladesh. So those were naturally matches in which they would have had more of the ball, or that's how you expected it. But generally, even when you had the ball, so the in possession play that I was seeing, I saw more sort of what I would call like your principles at play in the Saudi world. So how has that shift been in training? How have you built up? So obviously, like agar hum is story ko break down kare, if I have it correctly, pehle you had very little time to prepare, तो आपने उस टाइम पे जो बेस्ट प्लेयर्स थे उनको लिया सैफ विमेन चैंपियनशिप के लिए, उसको किसी तरह आपने ओल्ड और न्यू प्रैग्मेटिज्म प्लस वो सब कुछ मिक्स करके यू ट्राई टू गेट द बेस्ट दैट यू कुड. बट एट द सेम टाइम ऑब्वियसली उसके अंदर से आपने काफ़ी प्लेयर्स रिटेन किए जो आगे उस स्क्वाड में रहे, एंड देन यू जितना आपके साथ ऑब्वियसली उन्होंने टाइम गुजारा है वो और आपके प्रिंसिपल्स उनके अंदर आते गए हैं, उनकी गेम इंटेलिजेंस बढ़ती गई एंड एवरीथिंग. सो हाउ इज़ दैट ट्रेनिंग प्रोसेस, हाउ इज़ दैट knowledge, the process of imparting knowledge and making them into better players, how has that been?
Yeah, so that's been the key, right? So we've worked on a lot of different things. Of course, fitness and the psychological side is one part, and the technical side is another part. But for me, I think tactical part is the most important part of football, which people choose to ignore quite a bit. But what we've done is we've really gone down to the basics and start again. A lot of players who've been playing, I would say, random football have now started to play purposeful football a little bit, because they start to understand a little bit. So in trainings, I truly focus on the tactical side. There's a lot of fitness stuff we do. I'm not going to, take that away. Of course, we do that, but we do a lot of, principles of play in terms of, what are we going to do in attacking organization, defensive organization, in the transition moments, what do we want to do. तो ये सारी चीज़ें हम लोग इस पर बहुत काम होता है. We do classroom sessions, we send them stuff that they need to read, they need to watch. Then we have a lot of one-on-one meetings with the players to make them understand, to drive that, that point home. If I have something with a particular player that I need to make them understand, उनके साथ बैठ के हम लोग one-on-one पे बहुत ज़्यादा काम करते हैं कि with a coaching board, with video analysis, everything is going simultaneously. So we need to impart as much as we can and share as much as knowledge that we have in the short time to gain the identity that we want to play with. But again, football is not developed in 2 days.
Of course.
So it takes years and years. So जब भी मैं किसी से बात करता हूँ, I tell them the same thing. Maybe not this year, maybe 2 years down the line, you'll see this team and you'll see them enjoying the game. And you will enjoy watching them play if we continue working the way we are. And that's the idea.
Yeah.
So, the idea is to enjoy football, right? We want to score goals. We want to have fun with the ball. But to arrive to that, you need to be playing regular football. So, before the SAF games, I asked a few girls, how long have you played? When was the last time you played 11v11? And some of the answers were shocking, people would say, yeah, last time was the national championship, which was March of 2021.
Yes.
Some people was much beyond that. So it's shocking. It's like, and then you want to walk into you want to be part of the national team. It's a little difficult task, It's not easy, and then you go compete against the likes of India and Bangladesh right away. So you have to keep everything in mind. The context is very crucial at this time. So keeping that in mind, we had to make decisions based on that.
And you mentioned identity. That's a very key word. What kind of identity? So let's like hypothetically, let's say that overnight you are able to like wave a wand and the Pakistani team becomes exactly the way that you want it in your identity. What does that team look like?
So for me, first of all, team identity means what others view our team, right? So what people would see and say, okay, this is a high pressing team. They press really well. They keep possession of the ball. They play purposeful football, and I can tell you that a lot of clubs, a lot of teams in Pakistan don't play purposeful football. They play good football, but they don't play purposeful football. They don't know why they switch the ball. They don't understand why they, why they have to go wide, why they have to use the depth, stuff like that. They don't. It has to be done with purpose.
Yes.
So that's what I would like to see. I would like a very good defensive organized side with players who can actually be ball players, who can move the ball around with purpose without being scared, with understanding that why we're moving the ball this way, build up a strong midfield, connection and a lot of creativity up top is what I want.
And I want to get into the weeds because it's not, it's not every day that I get a coach in because there are not a lot of coaches in Pakistan that are willing to sit down and talk like this. But I just want to ask you, like a defensive organization, mein do you prefer like a high line? Do you prefer like aggressive front foot defending, or it's flexible game by game? What are your thoughts there?
Two things. I think one is you look at the opponents, what opponents you're playing, and number two is the players that you have. So based on that, of course, again, if you say that magic one, I would like to play a high line all the time, try to peg the team into their own half and do all of that. But unfortunately, it's not like that. We have to be realistic of what we have, what kind of players we have, and what kind of oppositions we face. But inshallah, I'm very optimistic that hopefully in the next year and a half, we will have players who will be willing to do this.
Inshallah. And in terms of your in possession play, are you so अभी आजकल ना बड़ी interesting सी एक debate चल रही है. Juanma Lilo, the Manchester City assistant coach who now is coaching in Qatar, used to be at Manchester City and even before that in Spain. अभी आजकल फुटबॉल में डिबेट चल रही है कि ओवर कोचिंग वर्सेस फ्रीडम, राइट? सो कुछ एक कैंप है वो ये बोलता है कि आपने प्लेयर्स को जो है वो बहुत ओवर कोच कर दिया है, 2 टच फुटबॉल पे वो आ गए हैं. सो यू गेट दोज रोबोटिक प्लेयर्स, रिसीव एक टच ली दे दी, रिसीव उधर खड़े हुए हैं, बस वही मतलब उन्होंने रट्टा तो नहीं मैं कहूँगा, बट लाइक देव बीन टोल्ड व्हाट टू डू स्पेसिफिकली. एंड देन पीपल आर टॉकिंग अबाउट द अदर साइड जिसमें वो थोड़ा रोमांटिसाइज करते हैं अबाउट द मैराडोनास, द रिकेल्मेस, जो free flowing, they were so good and so smart that they used to pick up space on their own. So I'm just wondering, like, do you have certain, like in your game philosophy, आपके कुछ certain वो हैं कि इतने zones occupy होने चाहिए specifically इस time पे, or are you more or less in the final third willing to let players shine through their creativity on their own or something like that? So what goes on there?
So yeah, I think if you talk about my coaching methodology, I like players to make their own decisions. I don't necessarily want to dictate what they want to do. I will give them a structure, I'll give them the broad strokes, and within that, the reason why you are chosen to be part of the team is the fact that you bring something to the table. And what is that? So yes, we have principles, we have our organization stuff, but end of the day, the midfield and beyond is all creativity. It's all about players. It's all about their decision-making skills. Yes, we do work on a few things, attacking plays, attacking patterns. I'm not so much into automatismo type plays, but I like to give them freedom. I want them to be free to decide what they want to do. And Juanma Leo is a person we've talked about often with my colleagues at least, and it's all about giving the players the freedom to play and show what they have within the structured environment. So I want players to make decisions. So even when I coach, I will ask a lot of questions versus tell them what to do. I will guide them to show them what they should be doing. This is an example I use pretty often. I'm like the GPS, right? I'll show you where you want to go, but end of the day you're driving. So you drive.
Guided discovery.
So you drive. I'll point it out for you, but that you got to drive yourself.
Yeah, but like specifically, I'm just wondering. So, for example, obviously, you have let the players make the decisions, but do you have like, so we have an example in Pep Guardiola who's very rigid about. So there's this story
player,
about
yeah.
कि non-ball side width आपने
Yes.
देनी ही देनी है because वो खेलना उस तरह जाता है. He's very like he's a control freak in that sense. And then you have the other side इसमें I'm forgetting the name of the coach. Flamengo का भी coach है वो जिसमें 6 के 6 front players एक side पे आए होते हैं.
Even
And then
Ten Hag,
non-ball side,
Eric
Ten Hag के
Ten
non-ball
Hag
side
is doing
winger आ
exactly
जाता
the
है.
same thing.
Yes, मतलब वो लोगों को लगता है since he worked with Guardiola, he's like that, but he's got his own.
No, he's absolutely
he's
different.
absolutely
It's,
not like that. He's very direct. He's like बहुत fluid है. But which camp do you fall in?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I love to understand the Eric Ten Hag type, what goes on in their minds. But I think for me, I rather go with a very occupy all three zones,
Yes.
and also the channels,
Yeah.
the 5 channels. They need to be occupying all of those to create good angles, of support, to make those triangles that we want to make, to progress in that manner. But within that, I mean, there's still a lot of way for people to make their own decisions and arrive to those, the attacking display that they show. So,
Yeah, I think Liverpool is a good example of that. क्योंकि Liverpool कहता है कि zones occupy वो बताते हैं, but final third में they're like
freedom,
chaos and freedom, like do what you want and all of that. So
and that's where the smart players come in, right? So that's where it matters what type of players. And you can see, I'm not Liverpool is a good example that you use, because one change of player and then you see their attacking play is gone pretty.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Pep इसकी लोगों को लगता है Pep जो है वो मजाक कर रहा है, like वो ताने दे रहा है, but Pep is very serious when he says it's all about the players. When I win, when I lose, it's about the players.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the player quality dictates everything. More than people. If you're in the business, then you realize how much player quality dictates everything.
It is all about the player quality. I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, coach at the end of the day is sitting outside, right? We train twice a day. We can do classroom sessions, anything that we want to do. Players quality, it makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, I like to give an example. So for like how am I going to? So I don't know if there's a good analogy, but basically a good way to explain it is that a good coach, if you like, a bad coach can ruin a good set of players as well. But a good coach can only make a bad set of players go so far. उसके बाद वो ceiling hit हो जाती है. Even Pep is not going to be able to do anything with it. No. So yeah, man, that's definitely interesting. And
but so it's just on that point. I think player development is important, right?
Of course,
within the coaching setup, a lot of coaches at like you can take examples of Jose or other big coaches that you want to talk about. They're not interested in player development. But a lot of coaches like Van Gaal or Eric Ten Hag, these guys are the ones who want to help players develop as well. So finding the right quality of players at a young age, developing them into proper, athletes, into proper football players, is also part of coaching. And but yeah, it's all about finding the right player.
Yeah, no, definitely. And just on this, हम काफी इधर side track कर गए, but like we were talking about you said you also did fitness work, and obviously that's part of it. One thing that Maria talked about, which was very interesting, was she said कि load बहुत brilliantly manage हुआ हुआ था. So the training was done in a way कि जब सऊदीया टीम पहुंची तो they were primed and ready कि वो I think 10 दिन में 3 मैचेस थे या whatever, और फिर कोई मसल इंजरीज नहीं हुई. तो for me specifically, that's a great thing. You're like, the credit goes to the coaching staff. Can you tell us how, like, what went into that? Because it's a very important and very underrated aspect of designing the training plan.
Yeah. So periodization is very important in football. So we have our weeks planned out. We have our microcycles. Everything in place. But most importantly, we need to speak to the players. To understand what they're thinking, what they're feeling, are they having sleepless nights, or if they're eating well or not. So all of these things are factors that we need to consider. So knowing your team, knowing your players is essential. And I think from the first SAF games to this one, that was another learning thing that we really picked on, because we had a lot of injuries, because we did load them quite heavily in the beginning, and that was counterproductive to us. So this time we had to manage our loads properly, and I think we did a good job of managing the loads. We understand our players more, a lot better now. There's a lot of freedom of communication with our players. So if someone is, if we feel that they're not in the right mindset or right frame of mind, or struggling with something, then it's an open door policy. They can come to us, they can talk to us, and we'll try to manage it best of our ability. We also have a really good backroom staff who manages the girls, all their needs in terms of our manager and in terms of our physios, the doctor in place. I think credit goes to everybody for bringing the team together. It's not only one person, so it's everybody together.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize the amount of work that goes into, a lot of people just tune in and watch their favorite team play, but they don't realize that everyone from the coach to the kit man to everyone is a crucial cog in the machine.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people also sometimes disregard that, because they think itne sare log ja rahe hain. It's not about itne sare log ja rahe hain. I mean, we are taking the national team, right?
हम तो कम लेके जाते हैं, हम तो कोई लेके ही नहीं जाते.
हम national team को लेके जा रहे हैं. These players are the most important assets to our country, right? So you must take care of them the best possible way. So, and you have to take care of them. That means we need to have people who can take care of them, right? So all of those things have to fall into place. People have staff of like 15, 16 sometimes.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, it makes sense. हमारे तो इतनी छोटी छोटी होती हैं. मैं तो खुश होता हूँ जब ज़्यादा लोग जा रहे थे, बिकॉज लाइक दैट्स हाउ इट शुड बी. हम बाहर के नॉर्मली क्लब्स के पास ज़्यादा स्टाफ और वो होता है, वो जब नॉर्मली ट्रैवल करते हैं तो हमारी नेशनल टीम के पास कम होते हैं. इस सब के अंदर एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट है, एंड ऑब्वियसली कूडोज टू you and the rest of the coaching staff कि आपने लोड बहुत अच्छा मैनेज किया, but it takes two to tango. So players need to look after their bodies and everything. Really, it's very important. Psychological load, physical load. इसके बारे में, like when I'm thinking about this, it's quite interesting because I'm quite interested in high performance and the culture around the team and everything like that. तो आपने ऐसा क्या इम्प्लीमेंट किया है कि, और सॉरी इसके अलावा मैं एक और चीज़ भी कहना चाहता हूँ कि मैंने जब भी इस ग्रुप को आपस में इंटरेक्ट करते हुए देखा है और प्लेयर से बात किया है, दे आर वेरी वेल टाइट निट एंड वेल कोऑर्डिनेटेड ग्रुप. क्या स्पेसिफिकली एज अ कोच हैव यू डन टू इंस्टिल दैट कल्चर एंड इंस्टिल this sort of mindset within the players?
So the few things that what we do is, first, one of the decisions that we had to make was choosing the right captain and the vice captain. That's important, right? Because end of the day, it filters down all the way to the team of how people are. So for me, that was a big taking away point, saying, okay, I need to find the best person who can represent the Pakistan national team as the captain and the vice captain, because they both have different roles, but and different roles and different ideas, and we need to have the best people on board. So we did that first. Uske alawa, what we did was we tried to create a positive culture in terms of making sure that players are eating right, and giving them knowledge of why they should eat right. Why is sleep important? Why they need to work a little bit more. So, and I'm proud of these girls, these players, because what they've done now is, every time, there's a lot of times this happens. So I go to training 2 hours before, or 1.5 hours before the training session starts. And I have, nowadays, the first camp, I was the only one there with my coaching staff, trying to make sure we get everything right. The next time the Saudi Arabia tour happened, the camp for that, uske andar mere paas kabhi maybe one girl or one player used to say, can I go with you and take some extra touches on the ball, whatever. And this time it's like everybody wants to come early. They know I go early, so everybody wants to be there early because they want to get that extra work done. And that mindset is what we need. Is they understand now that to become something, like, I'm not even saying champion, I'm saying that they need to do extra stuff with besides hamari 2 ghante ki training hai, but they're already there 1.5 hours before training, and that's what makes the difference. And credit to them. It's not coming from me, it's coming from within. That motivation has to be there, and I think they understand that, and they've changed their lifestyle. I talk to them all the time, and they tell me, yeah, when we went back to our homes, we didn't want to eat oily food, or we didn't want to eat, like, they all started having boiled eggs for breakfast. They never touched that before in their life. So stuff like that, just a lifestyle shift.
Yeah, that's very important.
How you want to be the best athlete and then become the best footballer. Spending a lot of time with the ball, spending a lot of time in the gym on their own, not because I'm dictating it, is because they want to do it themselves, because they know what it takes to be here now. And it's not only what it takes to be here, but it's how can I stay here for the longest time. They want to stay there, right? And the idea is to stay there. So to be able to stay in that environment, you need to be the best. So you're competing against yourself all day long.
आपने भी बात की थी कि जब वापस ये घर जाते हैं, एंड आई आस्क्ड दिस टू सर शहजाद एज वेल, आप दोनों का एक बहुत एक्स्ट्रा चैलेंज है एज नेशनल टीम कोचेस इन पाकिस्तान, बिकॉज मोस्ट अदर नेशनल टीम कोचेस इन द वर्ल्ड हैव ए डोमेस्टिक स्ट्रक्चर दैट दे कैन rely, not rely, but like that's backed up, like that rely upon, जहाँ से players आते हैं, जहाँ पे players वापस जाते हैं. And I gave this example as well कि one of the successes of the English national team is obviously their FA pathway जो उन्होंने youth में किया था, but also the अंदर जो coaches आ गए थे Premier League में, Klopp, Pep, Conte, all of these people, that आप जो रोज ट्रेनिंग जो आपकी क्वालिटी है वो ऊपर चली जाती है फॉर गेटिंग कोच बाय द बेस्ट. तो ऑब्वियसली फिर ट्रेंट अलेक्जेंडर आर्नल्ड जाएगा, फिल फोर्डन जाएंगे, देयर गोइंग टू बी बेटर प्लेयर्स, इज गोइंग टू बी एन ईजियर जॉब फॉर गैरेथ साउथगेट एंड एवरीवन देयर. हमारे पास वी डोंट हैव दिस लग्जरी, एंड इट्स आल्सो अ चैलेंज कि आप इसको किस तरह सर्कमवेंट करते हो. सो हाउ डू यू लुक एट दिस कि हमारा कोई डोमेस्टिक स्ट्रक्चर नहीं है, प्लेयर्स आपके पास हैं, फिर ऑब्वियसली वो घर भी चले जाएंगे, आई डोंट नो व्हाट द स्केड्यूल इज लाइक, बट दे डोंट रियली गेट एनी फुटबॉल एक्टिविटी. सो what is that? What do you do as a coach?
So I basically, whenever we send off the players back, we talk to them in detail. I mean, we give them a plan and etc. That's very basic. But again, what we've done, at least in the women's team, I'm not sure what's happening in the men's team, but in the women's team, I've told them that I'm looking for mature players. I'm looking for people who understand what it takes to be here. So the ownership is on them. It's their responsibility. Again, I cannot spoon feed them or babysit them to do these things. They need to do it themselves. So I think now they're starting to understand this, and they realize कि यार अगर मैं घर पे भी ये चीज़ें नहीं करूँगी तो I will be able to, if I keep eating the food that's जो घर पे मिलता है with the oil and all of that stuff, it's not going to be healthy for me. And when I come back to camp, I have to go through the entire process again. So we have to start from zero. So, and then it takes us that much time to get back to that mark and then grow from there. So they've started to understand it in depth. So I think a lot of the things that we did was basically have a lot of in-depth conversations, a lot of we share a lot of examples of what's happening in the world and how they are living and what it means to be a football player.
Yeah.
And if you talk about a true football player, what do they do? That's their lifestyle. Yes. Like if I take anybody from the Premier League or La Liga, unki zindagi hai. Yes. Like they eat good food, they train well, they train twice a day or whatever. They do their rehab. They
sleep, eat, everything is all like ice bath, everything is on point.
And that's their lifestyle. It's not, and they live their life with their families, and they have children, and they have their dogs and parties and whatever.
Yeah.
But
everything revolves around that. But that's obviously an important part. But कुछ चीजें हैं जो players कर, so you can give them an individual plan.
Yeah.
They can follow the best diet that they possibly can. They can get the most sleep and everything. But you cannot obviously replace or substitute domestic for regular football.
Absolutely.
तो इसका हल क्या है? हम like आपके कैंप में इन्हें ज़्यादा देर रखा करेंगे, because obviously you need them to be in like rusty ना हो जाए, like keep playing and be in the
ideal scenario. We don't want to keep them for such long periods, right? We want them to be with their families and homes and play in their clubs and perform at the highest level. But yeah, right now that's the only option we have. We don't have clubs who take care of players that way at the moment, and inshallah when we do, we'll be happy to do so. But till then, we want these players to get the best from what PFF can offer them. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah. And just lastly, I was quite interested. And जब से मुझे आपका पता चला, I wanted to ask you, how did you end up in Germany for a UEFA B? So you've done your UEFA B from Germany, right?
Yeah.
And then you also went to the FC Barcelona Academy in Canada. So how is a man from Pakistan, a coach here, went around, like gone around the world for his coaching journey?
Yeah, my coaching journey actually is pretty interesting because I started very young. I never was never a great football player, which is fine. I loved watching the sport. I loved coaching. I loved interacting with people. I started doing that at a very early age. I think I was 20, 21 when I started coaching properly. Got the opportunity to go to London to do my level 2. I did my level 2, FA level 2 from there. Then I got a chance to, then I did my another C from the US, another B from Canada. I got the UEFA B from Canada, from Germany, and right now I'm doing my A license right now.
Okay, that's interesting. And how was the Barcelona Academy?
Oh yeah, that for me has been the most eye-opening thing for me because that's where luckily I was there when Barca was at its peak and beyond. So learning about what the Barca methodology is probably the most interesting thing in my life that's happened to me. And I mean, putting everything aside, that is where I've learned how to coach properly, and very clear ideas of how things are done. So a lot of credit goes to that. Spending a lot of time with the Spanish coaches, with going to Spain to see how it's done, spending time with La Masia. So all of those things are something that those experiences are just great.
And what were the key takeaways from the Barca? Because I feel like that had a major impact on everything that you do right now.
Yeah, I think the most key impact is the details. We don't understand we do, but we don't try to understand what the details are in football. Why the whys are not there. So wo cheezon pe jo details of the game, details of individual performances, of why we do things, that's something is very important. And that's, I think players do get really annoyed by me because I do go into a lot of details about how it should be done. Even if it's receiving the ball, why they should be receiving on a certain angle or whatever. So uske andar main bahut depth mein chala jata hu, and then they get like, okay, let us play. So but yeah, that's the idea, to get into details.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. And just lastly, you mentioned the Olympic qualifiers. Is there anything else that you can tell us about the schedule of the team this year, next year, maybe?
Yeah, so first, I think what we want to do is the Olympic qualifiers happening in April. We are training at the moment. We're in the camp right now. Uske baad, I think we have a July window and a June window. So we'll try to get out and try to compete. And as soon as we have something, infrastructure to host international matches over here, we will be inviting teams as well. So every FIFA window, we're looking to get out and play. We have invites from a few countries, which are still in the process. So once they finalize, we'll be putting it out there. But abhi ke liye, the main thing is the Olympic qualifiers, and then we're looking at a FIFA window in June, and we're hoping to have a national championship in the middle for the players to continue playing.
That's very important.
So if that happens, that's good for our country. So
yeah, absolutely. And before I forget, I completely forgot about this, but people are really keep on asking me to ask this question. What about overseas players? Because a lot of people are really interested in both the men's side and the women's side, because we've got a lot of talent playing abroad. And is there any news on that? Obviously, we have some players who are playing already, Maria, Zamina, all of those players. But is there anything else you can tell us about the overseas players?
I think one was the passport issue. I think that's sorted. So now we have all our players in place. So we have Nadia.
This is a definitive squad for now.
Right.
That's going to stay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Marias, Zabina, Nadia, there's Rumesa, there's Amna, who are part of the squad. We are currently speaking to a few others who can add a lot of value to our team.
Can you name them right now or not?
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about Aksam Mushtaq.
Okay.
There's a Kayla Siddiqui in the US. There's Isra Khan in the US as well. So we're trying to get those players to buy in, and then of course go through them. But there's a lot of other players as well. Some younger ones, very talented players. who we're looking at the moment. Inshallah, if things go well, we'll get them in. But this doesn't mean that the local players are going to be sidelined. For me, it's very important to have the fine balance between international diaspora players and local players, because end of the day, we want to build our local market, right? That's what we want to work on. And to build that, we need to have players playing regular football, all of that. The championship happens, the club championships happen, maybe a league structure in place. Then we can see that there's going to be a good balance.
Yeah, that would be a good world to live in as a Pakistani football fan.
Yeah.
मैं particularly local talent में, I'm a huge fan of Aliza Sabir. मैंने like I saw her play during Danny's camp, and she was just like one of the favorite players that I had to watch, and I'm really glad she's also part of the camp as well. And just one last question that I always ask people who are here from Pakistani football: what is the message that you would like to give Pakistani football fans about anything, about the team, about Pakistani football? Take it away.
I think the biggest missing link I'll talk about in Pakistan is in Pakistan football is the culture of the sport. And I like to talk about that because I think we don't talk about it enough. I think people talk about coach education, people talk about investing into the facilities and all of that stuff. End of the day, players, football starts at home, right? I don't know if you've heard of that, but that's where it starts. And we need to make that shift happen. Until that shift doesn't happen, we are not going to reach the levels that we think that we might. So सबसे important है कि आपकी जो भी छोटे बहन भाई हैं, whatever they are, like street football should be there, recreational football should be there, futsal should be there, all and every type of foot. In schools we need to play, in homes and on birthday parties we need to be playing football versus cricket, right? And that's how the shift is going to happen. And that shift needs to happen real quick if we want to see Pakistan football develop. It's not about coaches, it's not about anything else. I think it's about that culture that comes through. So, and again, I like to give an example of this is like, for example, if you have a younger brother and he's 2 years old, what's the first thing you want him to do? You roll a ball to him, what's the first thing you say to him?
Me? Kick it.
Kick it, yeah. So that is kick the ball. That's probably that's where we go wrong.
Yeah.
We go wrong there.
Yeah.
We don't want to kick the ball. We want to build football players who understand football. So we say keep the ball. So dribbling is the most important thing in football.
Yeah. Ball mastery.
Ball mastery. So instead of telling the kid to kick the ball, we tell the kid to keep the ball. And that for me is if we start understanding this, and that's the message I want to give to everybody, is try to tell the players that we're coaching to keep the ball as much as possible at their feet and not let it go. And that's when we'll develop football players.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a great message. आपने बात ही इतनी interesting की है कि मेरा दिल चाह रहा है मैं भी इसमें भी आगे बात करूँ, but I said it was the last segment, so I guess I'll have to keep my word.
That's up to you. Man. I can talk football 24/7, so no problem.
I mean, you're tempting me. I just want to say one thing, Umar, if you will allow me, Mr. Producer. I just want to say that I agree with you. हमारा culture, क्योंकि मेरे से जब भी कोई coach education, मैं खुद coach education की बात करता हूँ, but I always caveat with the one thing, and I think you were talking about culture. I have talked countlessly about culture, but we do it in a different way, although I don't disagree with you necessarily. मेरे ख्याल से, even from a coaching perspective, our culture plays a big part. And by that I mean, हमारा football intellectual culture मुल्क में नहीं है. And I think that lends itself to what you were saying, कि हम उन बच्चों को कहते नहीं है कि बॉल रखो, और we don't even give any sort of like, we're not crazy, because हमारा उस तरह का culture. So if you go to Spain, if you go to Italy, if you go to Germany, there's a whole like, there's a swarm of people who are like madly into football, जो हर दिन रात उसके बारे में सोच रहे हैं, who want to get into it. I can count like on my one hand the amount of people that have come across Pakistan. A lot of people will say they're into it,
yeah,
but if they get actually जब उनको अच्छा भाई अब ये करो, if you walk, you can talk the talk but walk the walk now.
Yeah.
They won't. They think कि Pep Guardiola रातों रात बस सूट पहन के आ गया था. They don't want to go in the sunlight. They don't want to सूरज में खड़े होके जो है वो कोच नहीं करना चाहते. They don't want to start with under 12s. They're like under 8s. What am I even doing here? So and unfortunately, I don't want to name names, but you know how it is even with the top level we have here. There is a complete lack of football intellectual culture. किसी भी मुल्क में the coaches of the like football coaches are necessarily by definition the 99.9th percentile in terms of consuming football.
Yeah.
Right? They're at the top. यहाँ पे नहीं है. I am pretty sure यहाँ पे जो the certain people that you and I both know watch less football than a lot of football fans.
Yeah, absolutely.
तो कोच एजुकेशन नहीं हो सकती जब हमारा कल्चर ठीक नहीं होगा. और दूसरी जो चीज़ है,
No, go on.
बट एक और मसला ये है कि हमारे कल्चर, पाकिस्तानी कल्चर से लिंक्ड है कि unfortunately, I don't know how this has happened or why this is the case, but we feel like we know everything.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And we feel like कि हमें कोई बता के तो दिखाए, हमें उससे भी ज़्यादा पता है, right?
The learning mindset is the biggest.
So I think football का जो मसले हैं ना, they are so ingrained in us, like as a country, कि वो सिर्फ फुटबॉल से नहीं ठीक होंगे. They're like deeper issues at play. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things that, but to be honest, what I was trying to say was, if we allow people to, play football very often, and like for example, cricket, right? Name me 5 coaches that you know of cricket, top coaches.
Top का तो
Karachi, Pakistan में रहते हैं. नहीं पता ना? Because I'll tell you why. Because you ring the bell on the neighbor's house. What are the chances he has a football versus a bat and a ball?
Yeah, the bat and ball is pretty high. Yeah.
So, and it starts with their fathers or their parents or whatever. So I think that culture shift has to be there. And how do we do that is there's only one way is to start winning at the highest level. So the reason why everybody's into cricket so much is because we had heroes and everybody started following those heroes, right? And that's why we started producing players left, right, center. Pakistani still has the best bowlers because we had the best bowlers ever. Similarly, in football, Argentina will be the best because they will have players coming through the ranks because they love to watch Messi and they win the World Cup and blah blah blah. So that's what we have to be at. So it's important that we win at the highest level. We have a really good structure in place. Coach education. I'm not denying that coach education isn't the intellect. The football intellect has to be there. It's a 360-degree approach.
Yes.
It's not one thing.
Yes.
And once we have, but small things make a difference. So we have to start doing that. Academies have to be a lot stronger. They need to be. I don't say they don't need to be monitored, but they need to like have a syllabus in place. So another thing is basically what we need to do as Pakistan is have a North Star and follow that.
Qibla durust hona chahiye.
Qibla aapka seedha hona chahiye. And we all aim for the same thing. So you and me right now are fighting for the same thing. And people need to understand this. I'm not saying Adil Rizki will become XYZ.
Yeah.
I'm saying football Pakistan. We need Pakistani football to be the best.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
We are saying the same thing.
Yes.
How can we get it to be the best? Can we get more people on the same page? Can we shoot for the same thing? And I think that's when we will start realizing that, we have a North Star in place and we just follow that.
Yeah, but it's like a chicken and egg problem though, right? कि अभी आपने कहा कि जीतेंगे तो उससे वो होगा. Cricket में तो definitely हुआ, but I feel like cricket and football are less
No,
comparable.
you can't compare.
Yeah, because football obviously is constant decision making. वो हर picture change हो रही थी.
No, but I compare cricket because a lot of people compare it to it.
Yeah.
A lot of other people compare.
But like how will we win without, because football में पूरा आपको ecosystem चाहिए. हमने कतर का example देखा. Qatar does everything right.
Yeah.
They've been like, अगर आपने एक model state बनानी है ना football की develop, वो आप कतर को बना दो. They have everything. Like they have all the boxes ticked. But look at how they fared in the World Cup.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's going to need more time. But what I'm trying to say is that you do everything and still it's going to take a lot of time. How do we win without having all of the parts of the ecosystem? So the coaching, the domestic structure, the grassroots pathway, everything.
Yeah.
How do we win?
I think we have to be smart about it. We have to compete with people who, I know for a fact, I was talking to someone the other day and, they saw Maria's goal. And so sorry, I'll rephrase that. So what this did was, he told me that I saw this girl in this small village in, I don't even know where, in Pindi ke koi aaspaas koi village tha, usme ek ladki har roz aake training kar rahi hai, right? So he went to her and asked her ki, why are you doing this? And she like, I saw the Pakistan national team play and they scored a fantastic goal and I want to play. And that's how you start. So it's going to be baby steps. It's going to be a process. It's not going to happen overnight. So it's a process. So we as a as a association needs to be smart in terms of who we play, when we play, why we play them. Bringing diaspora players is important because of that. Like Philippines is all diaspora players. Morocco is a prime example of that.
Yeah.
Even France to
हाँ,
quite an
Lord,
extent.
diaspora इधर ही जरा मसला है, controversial है.
हाँ.
बाहर तो like Premier League is filled with like foreign players.
Yeah.
वो diaspora ही है
Yeah,
technically.
exactly.
Like, वो अपने
So I
मुल्क में तो
think
नहीं.
the best teams in the world now are being formed, and like Philippines is a prime example in women football. That's what they do. They take tryouts in the US. They don't. There's tryouts happening in the US for them. So, and that's what we're competing against. So like they're 53rd ranked in the world right now, and we have a match against them in April. So
yeah, good luck, man. Good luck. I'm really rooting for you guys. I'm rooting for the way this is going and everything that you're working towards. It's been an absolute pleasure. I love doing this. I hope I can have you back soon after we win the Olympic qualifier, inshallah. I don't want to put too much pressure on you, but fingers crossed.
No, I mean, I think football is it's a interesting sport, and we have to be realistic as well at times.
Course.
But I think what I can promise is that this team is going to give everything that they have, and similarly to me, I'll give everything that I have for the team, and inshallah we'll see what happens.
Inshallah, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it. The best we can do in football is give it our best. Everything else is up for chance, up to variance. Even the great Pep Guardiola can't control it sometimes when his team misses 5 chances and concedes in the 1 chance that they concede. But the Pakistan women's football team is on a journey, ladies and gentlemen. Pakistan football is on a journey. God knows we've been on it for a while now, but thankfully we're on the right track. Hopefully we are on the right track and we are going towards someplace. Mr. Adil Rizki, thank you so much. This has been Ismail Farooq. It has been a pleasure. Pressing Matters out on the mic. Do check us out. Follow, subscribe, everything. Do check out. If you want to plug your Instagram or anything.
Good.
Okay. We'll put it in the description below. He's a humble man. Until next time, take it easy.